Hello friends, I really hope you're doing well. I know around here the COVID numbers are going back up. I'm hearing that's happening all over the country and in a lot of places around the world as well. Please, you guys, be careful, be safe, take care of yourselves, take care of the people you love, get your vaccines, wear your masks, wash your hands, don't touch your face, stay away from people. Yeah, take care of yourselves. My name is Sarah, and here on my channel I talk about books, and I don't have any specific update. I was thinking about what I could film, and there are lots of little things, but I think they will do best kind of smashed into one video. This is basically just an update. It's going to come out closer to the end of August, but when I'm filming it, it's about mid-August, so I'm calling it my mid-August smorgasbord, my mid-August update. I have been, part of the reason that I haven't been doing as much reading, that I don't have as much to talk about, is that I have been extremely busy at work. I work in the real estate industry, and I just finished my first year in this job, and I think that it just always gets busy this time of year. But we are just swamped with stuff to do. And so I've been working a lot of extra hours, which is good because I get paid for working extra hours, but it means I haven't read as much. My reading is kind of slumped off a little bit, kind of slowed down a little bit, and I haven't gotten a chance to record as much. So at least for now, I'm going to move to a once a week upload schedule instead of twice a week as I had started out doing. I don't know how long that will last. For now, that fits my lifestyle. I can't imagine it hurts anybody who's watching. But let me know if you have an opinion about that, of course. So, in addition to working a lot of extra hours, I kind of had some other just small hurdles come up as I was trying to read. I started listening to Poirot Investigates, which I believe is the third Hercule Poirot book written by Agatha Christie. And I had to take a break from it. This particular book is not one novel, but it's a series of short stories, and each story is its own mystery that Poirot solves. And I don't enjoy that as much as I enjoy the novels. I also found that, it's been years since the last time, other than the two books I mentioned in one of my last couple of videos, it's been years since I read much Agatha Christie, and I'm finding that I have much less tolerance for the 1920s to 40s attitudes that come through. So I just took a break from that. I want to get back to it, but I'm taking a break. I started listening to a version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and that was on a free audiobooks podcast that I found on Spotify. And the narration was done, it was broken up between different people. The narrators were all okay, but I felt like the way it was done was extremely distracting to me. There was no way I was going to follow the story. There was one narrator for all the non-spoken parts and other narrators for each spoken part. So, the narrator would say, and he went up to him and said, and then someone else would read the line that the person said, or someone would read part of a line and the narrator's voice would say, "said he," and then the person would speak again, and there were little pauses between those things. I'm not sure if I've explained that well. It was just not something I personally could listen to. And again, I still do want to take in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I think I read part of it years ago when I was a kid. I don't really, everybody knows the story, but I don't remember much about it, and so I'd like to do that. But I need to find a different narration or just read it in print. I don't know which. Finally, I found a podcast called Phoebe Reads a Mystery. I will link in the description. And it is well read. I could take issue with a pronunciation here or there, or, you could prefer a different style of narration, but it is done well. There's 4 or 5 books on that podcast so far. And I started listening to The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, which is something I didn't know anything about before I started listening to it. There are some annoying aspects to the book. Several of the characters talk a lot about how women are inferior to men in minor ways, but still it kind of adds up. It gets a little old. It is an older book. And I think also it's hard to say for sure whether Mr. Collins had those attitudes or whether he was just presenting characters who had those attitudes. So all in all, I am enjoying it. I'm not sure how far I am through it because I'd have to look at how many episodes I've listened to versus how many there still are. I think I'm getting kind of close to the climax and then denouement, but we'll see. I found among the books that I have on my shelves, I pulled out Galileo's Daughter, and I realized it only after I started reading it, and I was, carrying it around the house or something, and I looked down at it and realized that on the back cover it talks about the author's other books. This is the same author who wrote Longitude, which was such a fascinating book about how, sailors, since humans started sailing, knew about latitude. It's not that hard to figure out that it gets hotter when you go this direction and cooler when you go this direction, and the position of the sun in the sky changes. But trying to figure out latitude around the globe took a really long time, and it took several technological developments. So this book is written by the same author. It's written with the same good attention to just decent writing. It's really, really interesting. The first section mentions his daughter and his family, his 2 daughters and his son, but his whole family, and talks about, it sets that up so you understand who these people are. And it talks a good bit about the debate that had been going on, the scientific debate that had been going on for some years. And in fact, harkened all the way back to the ancient Greeks, who disagreed among themselves about whether the earth was the center of the universe or the sun was, or something else was going on. And it's been really, really interesting to realize, and it seems obvious when I just say it, but I hadn't really thought about the fact that, of course, there weren't just 2 models. There weren't just people on one side saying the earth is the center of the universe and other people saying the sun is the center of the universe. There were all kinds of in-betweens and people who believed all kinds of things that we don't usually talk about today because they've been proven incorrect. And especially if you don't specifically study the history of science, you don't necessarily need to know all these ins and outs, but it's really interesting to dig into that. It's also, of course, the case that we hear in school, especially if we're not actually studying the history of science specifically in detail, then we hear that everyone believed the earth was the center of the universe. Then Copernicus and then Galileo said it wasn't, and the church said, no, you can't say that, and that's all we know about it. But it was actually much more complicated than that. There were people in the church who supported Galileo. There was a pope who at least partially supported what he said, and it was much more complicated than just 2 sides fighting with each other, and one side had all the power so it won. That is kind of what happened, but it's much more complex than that, and it's really interesting to dig into that. Along with that, there's the fact that he had 2 daughters, but one of them in particular really seemed to have a similar mindset to him, be intelligent like him. She went into a convent. They both went into a convent, but this one daughter particularly wrote to him, and we have many of her letters survive, and that's really what at least the second section of the book that I've gotten into, that's where the author goes and starts digging into those letters. And here's what she said. Everything from, send us more trim so we can make your collars. And she apparently made if you see all the pictures of him, he's got these big wide white collars on them. His daughter made those for him. And there's evidence of that in the letters. And, she talks about what the convent needs and asks him to petition the Pope for their needs, etc., that kind of thing. It's an interesting look into their daily lives. I'm almost halfway through, definitely looking forward to the rest of it. I cleaned up my Goodreads queue. I don't know how many of you guys use Goodreads. It's an online website / app that you can use to track your reading. I found that I had over 800 books in my to-be-read pile, my to-be-read list. I went through those and I eliminated a few that I know I just don't want to read, but most of what I found in that list is books. Most of what I found to get rid of in that list is books that I've already read. And apparently when I went in and told Goodreads, I've read this book, I specified a different edition than the one that I told them I wanted to read. And I can see there are good reasons they might not want to program it to do that. Occasionally, especially if you're looking at classics that have been translated, you may want to read different translations, and someone wants to keep up with, I've read this translation and this one, or I've read this edition that has extra material in it. I've read this edition which is actually abridged, whatever. So I understand why the programming does that, but it was a little frustrating. I think I had a couple of them in there at least twice as well, and I'm not sure I got all of those. I think maybe I skipped over one or two thinking, wait, was that in there? I'm not sure I'm gonna leave it. So anyway, so that happened. I thought about making a whole video of that, but honestly, it's just boring to sit and watch somebody scroll through their screen and delete things out of a list. Speaking of Goodreads, I also opened up an account with Storygraph, which is a similar sort of website / app. It is newer. It is not owned by Amazon. It is run by librarians. So a lot of people are preferring to move over to Storygraph just because it's independent, at least so far. And they're trying to stay independent. They're asking there's a free version and a paid version. And one of the main things they talk about with the paid version is if enough people buy the paid version, we'll be able to stay independent. We won't have to sell to someone like Amazon who already owns everything. Come on. You can transfer your Goodreads shelves or lists over to Storygraph. The one part of that doesn't transfer well is the dates that you read things. And you get a little warning when you start to do it. This doesn't translate dates well, so be aware of that. So I wasn't shocked by that. It's a minor frustration. So because of that, I will probably use Goodreads through the end of the year. I'll probably use both of them through the end of the year because I have a yearly challenge going on Goodreads. And I suspect that at the end of the year, I'll drop Goodreads and just use Storygraph. But I've got 3 or 4 months to see how that goes. Some of the other things you can do with Storygraph is you can give half-star ratings. So it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can give 1.5, 3.5, 4.5, whatever. A lot of people like to do that because they feel the 5-star rating system is just kind of clunky and they want more nuance in it. You can see it'll create little pie charts and graphs about your reading habits. What's the average page count of the books you read? What kind of genres do you like best? It's interesting. It looks like the social aspect of Storygraph is similar, but to be honest, I haven't gotten into that very much, and I'm not sure yet. But it looks like it'll be very similar. You can follow people, meet new people. I didn't see groups, but I haven't seen everything on the site yet. So, I'm looking forward to using it. I'm kind of proud of myself, and I'm kind of regretting this. A couple of days ago, on my citywide Buy Nothing group, someone posted a ton of books. It looked like there were probably hundreds of books, and I really, really wanted to go get at least dig through them and bring some of them home, and I refrained. And I'm still not sure how I feel about that. but it's probably best that I didn't go get them. I don't need any more books. I really don't. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think part of the reason I didn't go get them is because I was just tired. I didn't really want to drive over to where they were, but let me know how you're doing this month. What have you read this month? What do you still want to read this month? If you have suggestions for other bookish podcasts or YouTube channels, for myself, I'm particularly looking for audiobooks, but I'm open also to people talking about books. So leave those in the comments so we can all expand our bookish media intake. If you like this video, please like it, share it with anyone you think would be interested. Subscribe if you're so inclined. If you want to be sure you get notified of everything that I post, please hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button. And yeah, you guys really stay healthy, stay happy, stay hydrated, wear your masks, get your vaccines, and take care of yourselves. Bye.